happening? Welcome in. We're at the 11 Warriors Web Report. I'm Brett Hiltbrand, Dan Hope, Joshua Perry. Talking about TCU, looking ahead to that one. It's finally nice to actually talk about a quality football game where the Buckeyes are actually facing a quality opponent. And especially given the first 2 weeks of the season and basically the cakewalks that were Oregon State and Rutgers. Now the Buckeyes actually have to go out there and face a really Tier 1 program, Tier 1 team for sure in Fort Worth. Joshua, we'll start with you. What's the biggest thing you want to see from this team now come Saturday?
Honestly, I think the offense is playing at a really high level, so I'd like to see them continue that. We need to see Dwayne Haskins and how he responds to playing on a large stage here. The O-line's got to be able to step up because they're going to bring all kinds of exotics, so their communication there is going to be key. I think the running backs and the receivers are a strong point we can rely on. Defensively, I'd like to see them toughen up there in the middle of the defense with the linebackers. I think they took a step, but we need to see that next step. But honestly, I think there's going to be a critical point here for our special teams to make a play. A punt return for a touchdown, a blocked punt, kickoff return, something where you're creating a change of momentum play, a play where you put your offense in a great position or you put the defense in a position to create a big play too. You
and I talked about this over the weekend, that it's been a long time, really since we've seen special teams do something really dynamic that resulted in a touchdown. I'm trying to remember the last time we saw a punt return or a kickoff for a touchdown. It took a little while for us to kind of get there. Dan, the number one thing you want to see from the Buckeyes is what?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly you look at Dwayne Haskins, how well he's performed. He's done everything you could possibly ask of him to do in these first two games. But I think he's going to face more pressure in this game. It's going to be a tougher defense. You go on the road in a night primetime game. How does he live up to those expectations? All things we've seen so far would suggest he's going to handle it great, but it's still something we have to see. And then I think you also look at the offensive line, a group that has played really well these first 2 weeks. I think they're going to face much tougher competition in this TCU defensive line. And then, the linebackers and safeties, those were two of the question marks coming into the season. They were better last week than they were in week one, but we've seen those groups have some trouble, especially if things like covering backs out of a backfield and different things over the past couple seasons. They need to show that they're not going to be giving up those big plays this week like they did in week one.
In my opinion, a big game from Dwayne Haskins that even kind of scratches the surface of what we saw week one, week two on the national stage, and he jumps firmly into the Heisman Trophy candidacy.
I agree.
For sure. And I think this is kind of interesting, and I want to touch on it a little bit, is I also believe if Nick Bosa goes out and has 2-3 sacks and dominates and shuts down basically the entire side of an offensive line, given the fact that we don't necessarily, at the moment, have a dominant offensive player who's just racking up stats, Joshua, does Nick Bosa, rather, does he get his name in there a little bit if he goes out there and has a really outstanding game?
I think he gets his name in there.
Because I think it should. I think it should happen.
Absolutely. I think it should happen too. But the hard thing is at the end of the year, they're going to come up with an offensive player to win. It's an offensive player's trophy, basically. But he deserves to be in every single conversation for being the best player in college football because he's playing that way.
And you heard Greg Schiano kind of lament the fact that it is an offensive award on Monday in the pre-TCU press conference. Dan, it just seems like this team is poised to make a statement, right? And it feels like this game is the perfect opportunity to basically go out and show the rest of the college we're a force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. You're playing on ABC, primetime, AT&T Stadium, a place where you've won a national championship before. This is absolutely your opportunity. They've looked fantastic the first 2 weeks, but you've played Oregon State and Rutgers. This is the game you need to go out in and look impressive and to be taken seriously. And Josh, we talked about a little bit before off air about how this is a big stage for Ryan Day here too. That this is him going in a road night game, his last game as acting head coach. And he can really make a statement here, too. If Ohio State keeps doing what they've done these first 2 weeks and finishes his acting head coach tenure strong against TCU, that can be a real big statement and give this team a ton of momentum when Urban Meyer's back on the sidelines next week.
Isn't it wild that we've basically kind of put that storyline to the side? I think that speaks to how good of a job that Ryan Day has done, is that we are not dissecting and discussing what he may have done right or what he could have done better. We've essentially dismissed that storyline entirely because of one, how easy the first 2 games went, but I think that's also a credit to his ability to be in his way of kind of managing the whole situation. It's kind of crazy to me that this is his last one, and yet, for the most part, he's knocked it out of the park, Josh.
Yeah, I believe so. And it becomes a distraction. They said, is it going to be a distraction that Urban's not there?
I don't think it has been for the most part.
And it would have been a distraction if Coach Day wasn't doing a great job. If they weren't blowing people out, that's when you say, oh, you wish Urban was there. But the storyline has been about the players. It's been about the quality of play, and I think that's where it should be when we're talking about this Ohio State team, because we just have so many great players, and they're doing so many great things. I think that having a strong head coach is awesome, but regardless, the players play on Saturdays. The players make plays, and that's what we should be talking about.
TCU, it's an 8 p.m. kick at Jerry's World AT&T Stadium in Dallas. It's it's pretty much entirely a home game for the Horned Frogs. Buckeyes going into a hostile atmosphere. Preseason's over, folks. This one, it gets very real on Saturday, and I think the Buckeyes are poised to make a really huge statement across the entire landscape of college football. For Joshua Dan, I'm Brett Hiltbrand. Be sure to check us out at 11warriors.com. We'll see you next time.